The already gathering in Srila Bhakti Siddhanta room gradually thinned. A few sannyasis. Somebody has unmuted the phone. Hope they muted, I think. A few sannyasis left, excusing themselves to tend to duties connected with the parikrama camp. Only a few intimate leaders remained. Abhay was the only outsider. Of course, he was a devotee, not an outsider, but in the sense that he was not a sannyasi, was not handling any duties, was not even initiated, and was not traveling with the parikrama, but had joined only for a day. In that sense, he was an outsider. The philosophy Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was speaking, however, was democratically open to whoever would give an ardent hearing, and that Abhay was doing it. So we now continue. He was listening with wonder. Sometimes he would not even understand something, but he would go on listening intently, submissively, his intelligence drinking in the words. He felt Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati revealing to him the direct vision of the spiritual world. Just as a person reveals something by opening a door or pushing aside a curtain, he was revealing the reality, and this reality was loving service to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna, the supreme worshipable personality of Godhead. How masterfully he spoke, and with utter conviction and boldness. I don't know, when I was chanting today, the prominent thought was going in my mind was eating, sleeping, meeting, and defending. These are the prominent activities by the bounded people like us. So if you want to become enlightened, reduce eating, reduce sleeping, reduce mating, and then you don't have to defend anything because Krishna is always in charge of your life. So this is something was prominent that it says that these are the activity we have to become free. But we are so illusions that still we cannot remove the curtain of external energy. It was with such awe that Abhay listened with fastened attention. Of course, all Vaishnavas accepted Krishna as their worshipable Lord. But how conclusively and with what sound logic was the faith of Vaishnavas established by this great teacher? After several hours, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stopped speaking. Abhay felt prepared to go on listening without cessation, and yet he had no puzzling doubts or queries to place forward. He wanted only to hear more. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta made his exit, Abhay bowed down, offering his obeisances, and then left the intimate circle of sannyasis in the row of tents and went to the outer circle of tents. His mind surcharged with the words of his spiritual master. Now their relationship seemed more tangible. He still treasured his original impression of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the saintly person who had spoken to him on the rooftop in Calcutta. But tonight, the single impression that has sustained him for years in Allahabad had been enriched and filled with new life. His spiritual master and the impression of his words were as much a reality as the star in the sky and the moon over Vrindavan. That impression of hearing from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was filling him with its reality, and all of the reality was forming itself around the absolute reality of Srila Gurudev, just as all the planets circle around the sun. The next morning, Abhay was up with the other more than an hour before dawn, bathed and chanting mantras in congregation. Later in the morning, the tall, stately figure of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, dressed in a plain saffron, got into the back seat of a car and rode away from the camp. Thoughtful and grave, he looked back and waved, accepting the loving farewell gesture of his followers. Abhay stood among them. A little more than a month later, Abhay was again anticipating an imminent meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, this time at Allahabad. Abhay had only recently returned from Vrindavan to his work at Prayag Pharmacy when the devotees at the Allahabad Gaudiya Math informed him of the good news. They had secured land and fund for constructing a building. The Sri Rupa Gaudiya Math and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would be coming on November 21st to preside over the ceremony for the laying of the cornerstone. Sir William Malcolm Haley, Governor of the United Provinces, would be the respected guest, and in a grand ceremony would lay the foundation stone in the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. When Abhay learned that there would also be an initiation ceremony, he asked if he could be initiated. Atulanand, the Math's president, assured Abhay that he would introduce him to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. At home, Abhay discussed his initiation plans with his wife. She had no objection, but she did not want to take initiation herself. They were already worshipping the deity at home and offering that food to the deity. They believed in God and were living peacefully. But for Abhay, that was not enough. Although he would not force his wife, he knew that he must be initiated by a pure devotee. Avoiding sinful life, living piously, these things were necessary and good, but in themselves they did not constitute spiritual life and could not satisfy the yearning of the soul. Life's ultimate goal and the absolute necessity of the self was love of Krishna. That love of Krishna, his father had already inculcated within him, and now he had to take the next step. His father, would have been pleased to see him to do it. When he had learned from his father was now being solidified by someone capable of guiding all the fallen souls of the world to transcendental love of God. Abhay knew he should go forward and take complete shelter in the instructions of his spiritual master. And the scripture enjoined, quote, "He who is desirous of knowing the absolute truth must take shelter of a spiritual master who is in a disciplic succession and who is fixed in Krishna consciousness." Unquote. Even Lord Chaitanya, who was Krishna himself, had accepted a spiritual master, and only after initiation did he manifest the full symptom of ecstatic love of Krishna while chanting the holy name. As for the ritual initiation, he had received at age 12 from a family priest. Abhay had never taken it very seriously. It had been a religious formality, but a guru was not a mere officiating ritualistic priest. So Abhay had rejected the idea that he already had a guru. I know that so many of the devotees, that they feel that they were initiated when they were young, and this is something that I think they should really listen carefully this, because this is not just a formality. It's not a real guru. He had never received instructions from him in bhakti, and his family guru had not linked him through disciplic succession with Krishna. By taking initiation from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he would be linked with Krishna. Bhaktisiddhanta, son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and disciple of Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, who was the guru in the 12th disciplic generation from Lord Chaitanya. He was the foremost Vedic scholar of the age, the expert Vaishnava who could guide one back to Godhead. He was empowered by his predecessors to work for the highest welfare by giving everyone Krishna consciousness, the remedy for all sufferings. Abhay felt that he had already accepted Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as his spiritual master, and that from their very first meeting, he had already received his orders. Now, if Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would accept him as his disciple, the relationship would be confirmed. He was coming so soon after Abhay had seen and heard him in Vrindavan. That was how Krishna acted, through his representative. It was as if his spiritual master, in coming to where Abhay had his family and business, was coming to draw him further into spiritual life. Without Abhay's having attempted to bring it about, his relationship with Bhaktisiddhanta was deepening. Now Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was coming to him as if by a higher arrangement. On the day of the ceremony, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati met with his disciple at the Allahabad Gaudiya Math on South Malakka Street while he was speaking Harikatha and taking questions. Atulanand Brahmachari took the opportunity to present several devotees. Abhay amongst them, as candidate for initiation. The Allahabad devotees were proud of Mr. Day, who regularly attended the mat in the evening and led bhajans, listened to the teachings and spoke them himself, and often brought respectable guests. He had contributed money and had induced his business colleagues also to do so. With folded palms, Abhay looked up humbly at his spiritual master. He and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta were now face to face, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta recognized him and was visibly pleased to see him. He already knew him. Yes, he said, exchanging looks with Abhay. Quote, he likes to hear. He does not go away. I have marked him. I will accept him as my disciple. Haribol. How much faith Guru has in Srila Prabhupada. He will not go away. As the moment and the words became impressed into his being, Abhay was in ecstasy. Atulanand was pleasantly surprised that his Gurudev was already in approval of Mr. Day. Other disciples in the room were also pleased to witness Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's immediate acceptance of Mr. Day as a good listener. Some of them wondered when or where Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had arrived at such an estimation of the young pharmacist. At the initiation, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was seated on a Vyasasana, and the room was filled with guests and members of the Gaudiya Math. Those to be initiated sat around a small mound of earth where one of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's sannyasi prepared a fire and offered grains and fruits into the flames, while everyone chanted mantras for purification. Abhay's sister and brother were present, but his wife was not. Abhay basked in the presence of his Gurudev. Quote, yes, he likes to hear. The words of his spiritual master and his glance of recognition had remained with Abhay. Abhay would continue pleasing his spiritual master by hearing well. Quote, then, unquote, he thought, quote, I will be able to speak well, unquote. The Vedic literature describes 9 processes of devotional service. The first of which was Shravanam, hearing about Krishna. Then came Kirtanam, chanting about and glorifying him. By sitting patiently and hearing at Koshi, he had pleased Krishna's representative. And when Krishna's representative was pleased, Krishna was pleased. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had not praised him for donating money to the math and hadn't advised him to forsake his family and business and travel with him. Nor had he asked Abhay to perform great austerities, like the yogis who mortify their bodies with fast and difficult vows. But, quote, he likes to hear, unquote. He had said, quote, I have marked him, unquote. Abhay thought about it and again listened carefully as his spiritual master conducted the initiation. Finally, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta called for Abhay to come forward and receive the Harinam initiation by accepting his baits. After offering prostrated obeisances, Abhay extended his right hand and accepted the strand of japa beads from the hand of his spiritual master. At the same time, he also received the sacred Brahminical thread, signifying second initiation. Haribol. So this is Prabhupada is teaching it that we should only take it from the right hand, not with the both hand, I guess. Haribol. Usually Srila Bhakti Siddhanta gave the first initiation, Harinam, and only after some time, when he was satisfied with the progress of the disciple, would he give the second initiation. But he offered Abhay both initiation at the same time. How much faith Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj would have on Prabhupada. Now, Abhay was a full-fledged disciple, a Brahmana, who could perform sacrifice such as this fire yagna for initiation. He could worship the deity in the temple and would be expected to discourse widely. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta added, Arvinda means lotus to his name. Now he was Abhay Charana Ravinda. So Arvinda is a lotus. Very good. After Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati left Allahabad for Calcutta, Abhay keenly felt the responsibility of working on behalf of his spiritual master. At the initiation, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta had instructed Abhay to study Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which outlined the loving exchanges between Krishna and his devotees, and explain how a devotee can advance in spiritual life. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu was a law book for devotional service, and Abhay would study it carefully. He was glad to increase his visit to the Allahabad Center and to bring new people. Even at his first meeting with his spiritual master, he had received the instruction to preach the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And now he begins steadily and carefully considering how to do so. Preaching was a responsibility at least as binding as that of a home and business. Even in his home, he wanted to engage as far as possible in preaching. He discussed with his wife about his plan for inviting people into their home, offering them prasadam, and holding discussion about Krishna. She didn't share his enthusiasm. Haribol. Enthusiasm, I was reading. Enthusiasm is the expression of the intent to solidify the actions to please the Supreme Lord. This is the definition I read the other day. It was profound. Srila Prabhupada in his words says, my wife was a devotee of Krishna, but she had some other idea. Her idea was just to worship the deity at home and live peacefully. And my idea was preaching. It was not possible for Abhay to travel with his spiritual master or even to see him often. His pharmaceutical business kept him busy, and he traveled frequently. Whenever possible, however, He tried to time a business trip to Calcutta when his spiritual master was also there. Thus, over the next 4 years, he managed to see his spiritual master perhaps a dozen times. Whenever Abhay visited Calcutta, the assistant librarian at the Gaudiya Math, Nityanand Brahmachari, would meet him at Howrah train station with a two-horse carriage belonging to the Math. Nityananda saw Abhay as an unusually humble and tolerant person. As they rode together to the Math, Abhay would inquire eagerly into the latest activity of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. His traveling, his publishing, how many centers were currently open, how his disciples were doing. They wouldn't talk much about Abhay's business. Abhay would stay at the Gaudiya Math, usually for about 5 days. Sometimes he would visit one of his sisters who lived in Calcutta, but his main reason for coming was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And Abhay would take advantage of every opportunity to hear him. I have seen so many spiritual master comes, but we don't see the disciple to hear him because we are so occupied with our other activities. Abhay didn't try to become a leader in the inner management of the Gaudiya Math. His spiritual master has initiated 18 sannyasis who carried out most of the preaching and leadership of the mission. Abhay was always the householder, occupied with his own business and family, never living within the Math except for brief visits. And yet, he began to develop a close relationship with his spiritual master. Sometimes Abhay would go to see him at the Chaitanya Math, at the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya in Mayapur. One day at the Chaitanya Math, Abhay was in the courtyard when a large poisonous snake crawled out in front of him. Abhay called out for his godbrothers, but when they came, everyone simply stood, looking, uncertain what to do. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came out on the veranda of the second floor, glanced down, saw the snake, and immediately ordered, "Kill it." A boy then took a large stick and killed the snake. So Prabhupada is explaining in his own words as follows. So I thought, how is it that Guru Maharaj ordered the snake to be killed? Unquote. I was a little surprised. But later on I saw this verse, and then I was very glad. Modeta sadhur api vrushchika sarpahatya. Even saintly person take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake. It had remained a doubt how Guru Maharaj ordered the snake to be killed. But when I read this verse, I was very much pleased that this creature or creatures like the snake should not be shown any mercy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was reputed to be so austere and so strong in argument against other philosophies that even his own disciples were cautious in approaching him if he were sitting alone or if they had no specific business with him. Yet, even though Abhay's contact with him was quite limited, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta would always treat him kindly. So Prabhupada explained in his own words the kindness of his spiritual master as follows. Whenever I met my Guru Maharaj, he would always treat me very affectionately. Sometimes my godbrothers would criticize because I would talk a little freely with him. And they would quote this English saying, quote, fools rush in where angels fear to tread, unquote. But I would think, quote, fool? Well, maybe, but that is the way I am, unquote. My Guru Maharaj was always very, very affectionate to me. When I offered obeisances, he used to return, Dasos me, quote, I am your servant, unquote. So I think that's a wonderful place to stop. At least let's, yeah, Dasos me, I'm your servant. How the spiritual master treat his disciple. That's very amazing. I'm gonna try to take this screenshot so I know exactly where to begin tomorrow. Thank you very much for your patience. And the devotee who has to leave now, we would like to offer them our humble obeisances at the desk of the Lotus Feet and beg their mercy. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhaya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you very much. And those souls that they are lucky enough to extend their stay and chant a little more, they should be proud that how Krishna is helping to increase our devotion. Particularly in the morning, chanting Hare Krishna is so sublime.
Hare Bol, Prabhuji. May I chant, Prabhuji? This is Kamta.
Yeah, you can chant.
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Rama